The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those Knuckleheads of Liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
It is March 20th, 2023, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we bring you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. On this show, it's just the Knuckleheads this time, but with a lot of good topics to talk about on liberty. But before we get to that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. So let's jump right into it. What's bigger than the whole financial crisis? I tell you, maybe we are the Titanic that just hit the iceberg. I don't know. James, can you bring up the visual on that, our invisible hand there? Oh, wrong story. There we go. So Wall Street Journal here has the sort of a good story about the timeline of this whole spark to the current collapse, I guess you might say. Essentially, this comes down to the Silicon Valley Bank is I guess the one that'll be remembered in the history books this time if it turns out to be the actual iceberg. But apparently, the interest rates, we've been going through all this inflation under Biden. And so the Fed has had to adjust interest rates up pretty quick. And that means that there's a lot of banks with assets that it thought had a certain value on its books that now don't have quite the same value. And so this sort of caught Silicon Valley Bank by surprise, and they wound up having to liquidate some of their assets in order to cover withdrawal demands and other things. And it's actually wound up causing them to I guess have a bank run, where people start trying to demand their funds out, and so anyways, the federal government, long story short, had to jump in and essentially ensure that all of the depositors would be whole, even those over the FDIC amount, which is kind of crazy thing, because like what's the point of just saying, hey, there's an FDI limit if it doesn't really matter? So anyways, but this is part of central planning, right? When the plan never seems to work out and it's all ad hoc. But anyways, this is kind of what we're into at the moment, is that we have this banking crisis where now there's been several other banks as well. The latest is or one of the latest is Credit Suisse, and the Swiss government has stepped in to back them up. So why I don't think it's the Swiss government, actually, it's a Swiss.
It's a Swiss bank that is buying them.
Yeah, it's called USB, but I think there's been some promises, I think, from the Swiss government that somehow they're not going to let this thing go under. So
the Swiss government has facilitated the purchase of UBS of Credit Suisse.
Yeah. But anyways, this is not like out of the blue, right? I mean, this comes on the heels of a COVID lockdown, piling trillions of dollars more of debt onto the economy. Let me show you the normal, little things we show. Here's the debt clock. We are fast approaching $32 trillion in debt. And of course, it was only about a decade ago that we were around $20 trillion in debt. So, this is really starting to roll out of control pretty fast, it feels like. The Congressional Budget Office has been warning us for a while about, their debt to GDP ratios and how much debt we're taking on. And this is what their chart shows. We've talked about this many times on the show, but you go back to the early 1900s, and the the government's footprint was pretty small on the economy. It was just a little bit of debt compared to the amount that we made. But wars tended to, have an impact on that. So you have World War I there, World War II, the Great Depression. We got a lot more productive. We didn't really pay it off. We just got a lot more productive, which is why this went down. But now we're back to those levels again, and we don't look like we're, just the engine of productivity anymore. so this is, and this is a hockey stick, for all of you people out there who are thinking about climate and, oh my gosh, there's a hockey stick on carbon. Well, this is the hockey stick your government is telling you about on our debt, on our economic situation, and most people are completely oblivious to it. They, in fact, they even invent things like modern monetary theory and other, might as well be magic monetary theory, I guess, where you just simply print more money and, hey, no big deal. It doesn't matter how much debt we go into, because according to Paul Krugman, we owe it to ourselves. So just completely nuts. But there are some people though who are more sober heads, and this is a story from back in 2022 where they were projecting a recession coming, and this is before the banks had this crisis.
Yes.
And Rabini, he is Neriel Rabini, a well-respected economist, referred to as Dr. Doom because he tends to predict a lot of these downturns. And he says you're delusional if you think this is just going to be a short and shallow recession. So, hey, maybe the end is nigh. What do you guys think about this? Just kind of, are we there? Should we get our life preservers and look for the lifeboats?
Tim, go.
Well, the debt is bad, but in my humble opinion, this isn't this whole thing with this Silicon Valley Bank is not related too much to the debt. It's related to the low interest rates that have preceded the debt and their investments of their depositors, which are wealthy people that have a lot of money into their bank, and then it goes into the bond market at the prevailing low interest rates, and then the interest rates rise, and now their investments that they had in these in this bond market of low interest rates are no longer valuable to be sold on the open market. So they're basically, they had value when they bought them, but that depended on low interest rates, which skews the markets, and that's the whole problem with this system that we've set up and we're using. So, so these rich people are usually in those situations. This happens all the time. The banks fail a lot. They fail almost every day. It's just that this one, made the headlines, and these rich investors normally take a 15 to 20% haircut, and they can afford it. They don't need to be bailed out by the government. But of course, like Jason brought up, I think you were referring to the recent legislation that the Congress is considering. All that does is bail out uber wealthy people that can afford it to take, and they should take a haircut if they're going to be investing in the bond market in an environment of historically on the bottom of the 0% and slightly above interest rates. If they're going to be that that blatant with their money, they deserve to lose some of it. But this legislation that Jason's referring to is going to bail them out completely, so they don't lose anything, like Credit Suisse. It's like seriously, it's called investing because it's comes with some risk. You got to take. It means you can lose it. And so what's going to happen? And of course they're putting this out there as if, look, the FDIC already insures. Of course they don't have enough money for everything that's out there, but assuming they have enough money for the normal type of bad guidance from the banks that are investing in these kinds of instruments, they have enough money to cover up to $250,000 of the majority of people from the low to middle class. Okay, most of us are covered. So, okay, no, they don't, like Jason said, apparently it's broke. Yeah, it's broke for the uber wealthy people that put a whole bunch of money into these kinds of investments. But those uber wealthy people can afford to take the 15 to 20% haircuts they normally take when they lose these kinds of investments. So this is again this government response. That's the cure is worse than the disease. Again, like everything they do, it's always the same thing. They create the disease with their uber low interest rates in the first place. Then the disease affects some people, and now their cure for it is to make it even worse. So that now, imagine, if you're going to be covered for investing in stupid things, it doesn't matter what you do then. You don't have to worry, right? You're not going to lose it because the government's got you backed up. Well, no, let's stop talking about the government as if it had its own wealth. It has nothing, zero money, zero, outside of maybe what they own in real estate. Aside from that, they have nothing. All they do is take money from us and give it to other people. They take money from one American and give it to another. And in this case, they're giving it this solution, quote unquote, they're talking about is giving money to wealthy people. So, number one, no, I don't think it's a canary in the coal mine yet, because this is even though by amount of money, it's fairly large. I think it's the 16th largest bank or something. Silicon Valley it's gone now, but was. But in terms of total investors and its impact on the economy, it's very small. So no, it's not a canary in the coal mine yet. Not that all this uber low interest rate regime has not created horrible distortions in the market. It has.
Well,
and,
Tim, though, you say it's not a canary in the coal mine, but this one died, and there's a whole bunch of other sick canaries.
That is just the problem I think we are ignoring here because Silicon Valley Bank went under. First Republic had to be bailed out. Well, thank God they were not bailed out by the government per se. Private banks had to bail them out. I think it was 11 largest banks in the United States formed a consortium to bail out First Republic. And then we had this problem about Credit Suisse came up after that. And Credit Suisse has a very large presence here in the United States. They are part of our banking system, even though they are Switzerland based. The problem is here, these things are all intertwined. And Tim, you just said that this is not related to the debt. I am not sure that is even true. Look at what happened in the 2008, 2009 bailouts. The government went into a ton of debt to bail out the banks on Wall Street. They did. So part of the problem that we're seeing right now is because of those bailouts that occurred in 2008. So yes, the interest rates, the uber low interest rates are causing these interest rates are causing problems. Yeah. But the government is also going into debt to finance some of this damn nonsense they are doing. So some of these things should be allowed to fail. I think they should be.
Right. Well, Leon, real quick, let me pull up the visual again real quick, just to show you financially where the country was back in 2008 when we had our last one. Our invisible hand, James, can you pull up the visual again real quick? So if you look here, this is about before this big upward slope. That's where we were in debt to GDP around the time of the first of the 2008 crisis, right? So we were around 40 to 50% debt to GDP in that period. We're getting near 115, 120% right now. Right, and I mean, if we're to get a big jump like that now, I mean, we're way ahead of the CBO's projections on where all this is going. So anyways,
okay, you could say that the total debt is related to what happened to Silicon Valley because it represents what happens when you hold interest rates down at 0%. What happens? Oh gosh, do people go into debt, including governments? Yes. And do people utilize that debt to do frivolous investments? Yes. And do the people that are involved in the frivolous investments, do they deserve to have a haircut if interest rates rise and their investments become worthless? Yes, they do. So no, they shouldn't be bailed out. The stupid banks shouldn't be bailed out. I agree with Leon on that. We can maybe have more conversation about the relationship of the total debt to what's happening in this thing. And there is a relationship in that sense that 0% interest rates that are involved in the bond market is going to create higher debt. And you see government debt, federal government debt right there in that graph.
But Tim,
by the way,
Tim, do you really have faith that Captain Dementia, who's currently running the show, can actually determine who the smart banks are and who the bad banks are? I mean, I don't have any confidence in him to tie his shoes in the morning.
No, of course not. Yeah. We love to pick on the the idiot in chief, but let's see. No one can predict that. I mean, who can predict that? The market can. When these banks make these kinds of investments based on 0% or 1% interest rates, and then, it turns bad for them as interest rates rise. That's just investing 1A right there. And if they're going to do that, then the market will tell when they are going to go belly up. And, are there going to be more banks to follow? Probably. Is this going to be the beginning of the end or the crashing of the monetary system? I think it's a little too early to say. That's why I say I'm not sure that I guess I should say that. I said that it's not the canary in the coal mine. I should say I'm not absolutely convinced at this point that this is the canary, Silicon Valley and Swiss Bank and all those. But it's certainly indicative of a trend of bank failures based on rising interest rates. Interest rates, by the way, they're still below historic, vast long terms of historic rates in the 6 to 8% category. So we're still not even there, and already we're having these kinds of issues. And I'm not saying we're not going to have more issues. Is that going to collapse the monetary system by itself? I'm not sure. I think it's going to have like stupid ideas like this idea about bailing out all these investors and bailing out all these banks. That's stupid.
Well,
that's going to cause. And by the way, let me just go back to that graph, and you don't have to show it, but remember that uptick that you were pointing out after the 2008 crisis. Now, David Stockman is painstakingly, as he always does, come up with a number of the total hit to the economy. It was, after 2008, about $800 billion. Their response was 8 times that amount in debt to bail everybody out. 8 times the hit to the economy. 8
and we didn't even have that. We didn't even have Captain Dementia running things.
Right. No, you don't need to. You don't need to. You don't need to, because the system is totally been corrupted by the Federal Reserve and this whole fractional reserve thing, and the lack of sound money and no tie whatsoever to anything to hold back the increasing debt, which, here we are. So here's the thing. It's not just, here's what happened because of your idiotic 0% policy, low interest policy. Oh gosh, I got a 2% loan on my house. Aren't I lucky? This is wonderful. I just bought a car for 3% interest. Who did that? I mean, I'm too old to not know that.
Well, I don't know, but we got to.
That was ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, are we going to move on?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to get us onto some of these next things too, and also too, maybe you could bring this up, James. When you talk about who got bailed out, by the way, our governor also was one of the people who got bailed out as a depositor. So when you talk about bailing out the rich, it just should be known that hey, it's the usual suspects in there who are getting the sort of the sweetheart deals. And by the way, he lobbied the federal government to do this bailout without apparently disclosing the fact that he had 3 wineries that were banking with that.
We are so shocked to know this.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so shocked.
Well, they haven't been bailed out yet, have they? or have
I believe they have. I think
Well,
Biden
I think,
said
well,
he guaranteed
they haven't,
everything
it have
over-
not been physically done, but the promise is clearly there.
So the federal government's going to bail out all these guys. Okay. Yeah. See, this is the problem. That's the problem right there. They're going to go bail these people like Newsom out that deserve to lose their money, or at least, you know, as much as they would normally lose in a free market. But no, and look, if we're going to have a free market, there's going to be risk. If this is the whole thing about freedom. Freedom is risky. Freedom is not clean and orderly and perfect, okay? Freedom is messy. Freedom is you lose sometimes. Freedom is you make mistakes and you're allowed to make mistakes. Freedom is you shoot heroin and you become an addict and you die because you're stupid, okay? That's freedom. You have the freedom to do that in a free society. But if we're going to allow people to do essentially the same thing, I shot the heroin of 0% interest rates into my investments and they died. Oh, no kidding. Really? I'm shocked. You know, okay, this bailout thing, this is the crux of the problem in this complete total distortion of the free market. It's not free at all. We're almost a bad word. We are messed up badly here, and it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, now those visuals show it. But as you say, freedom is risky, but the alternatives are a sure bet that they're going to be a loss compared to freedom.
Yes. Well, yes. Well, yes, but of course, you have the heroin addict like Newsom here, who's addicted to 0% interest rates, and he wants his stupid investments to be bailed out. You know, okay, I get it, and he's in power, so he can do that. You know.
Well, Tim, you sound so triggered. This is a great time for good guys with guns.
All right, let me pull it up here. We should have, this would be a good time to have some kind of like catchy little tune about good guys with guns. But we don't have that yet, but we're working on it, folks. And so this one here is a Los Angeles one back in August of 2022. Lincoln Heights, a homeowner shot and killed a man who lunged at him with a knife while he was in the front yard of his Lincoln Heights home, authorities said Saturday. The suspect, a man in his 30s, was pronounced dead at the scene, said Officer Norma Eisenman of the Los Angeles Police Department. His identity was not immediately released. The suspect approached the man at about 9:40 p.m. Friday in the 500 block of East Avenue 28. Eisenman said the homeowner shot the suspect, then called police. She said he was not arrested. That's all we know. So anyway, another instance where a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy, in this case with a knife, which, by the way, are in about 4 or 6 times the amount of deaths by rifle, all rifles, including your 1022 and your AR-15. Knives account for 4 to 6. I can't remember what the FBI stats are. I'd have to pull them up. But way, many times more than all rifles put together, you people that hate the AR-15 because it's evil and black and has things sticking out and an adjustable stock and a flash hider. Oh, don't hide the flash.
Well, good guys with guns, much better for society than politicians with rules, I guess. Stupid rules.
Oh yeah. Just Google Stockholm's murder rate in the Middle Ages of Stockholm, Sweden. The murder rate, it's off the charts high. Off the charts. Why? Because people had no way of defending themselves. You know, the strong overwhelmed the weak. The many overwhelmed the few, and the young overwhelmed the old. And they killed them mainly with farm implements like pitchforks and shovels and stuff like that. How would you like death by a pitchfork? You know, how'd you
we need
like
a pitchfork ban. That's what we need.
That's right. Yes.
But speaking of bans,
pitchfork control. You know, pitchfork control. That was it. That was our problem.
But imagine being killed by one. It would not be any fun. I think I'd rather get hit one shot by an AR-15, to be honest. But you know, if I had to die.
Yeah. Speaking of bands, though, let's jump into speech. We want to talk a little bit about that. And I don't know if we'll have time to get to everything, but let's try. So, anyways, the speech thing that we want to talk about is actually something that happened really close to Sacramento the other day. I was actually there. It happened in UC Davis, where they had a speaker come to campus, Charlie Kirk, and he's a more conservative speaker. He's the leader of TPUSA. James, maybe I could get the visual up here on this. So in this particular issue, Charlie Kirk was invited to TPUSA by a student group, was invited to UC Davis rather by a student group, the TPUSA chapter on the campus, to come speak there. And so the Sacramento Bee then churned up its propaganda machine, I guess, and they started printing in their paper that Charlie Kirk was apparently calling, they said, for lynching people. And so they said, in fact, they said lynching trans advocates is what they, or lynching trans people, I think, is what they said. And so it was absolutely insane, I guess. The paper essentially said that this is another, let's see, where exactly is the quote? They said, let's see. They said, I think they said another something like another totalitarian is coming to the campus or something, and they said Charlie Kirk
they call him a fascist.
Fascist, okay, yeah, and they said that he's called for the lynching of trans people, which apparently was complete slander. So this is something that was not, something that actually got said. This is just something that the B opinion writer decided to write. And of course, this ginned up a mob of Antifa folks who came down there and essentially tried to stop the event with force. And I was there, and so I actually saw some. We actually have some exclusive footage, so let's bring that to you. James, can you show? We got about a minute of that footage. It's kind of eye-opening, and that's why we're going to show it. Oh.
Umbrella? What kind of fucking idiot uses a fucking umbrella? If you're gonna use something, right? You're fucking right here, so get the fuck out of here. All you people need to get fucking jobs. Yeah. You especially. Cancer? I'm not dying cancer. You losers. All you losers.
Taxes are paying for me to study cancer, to study diseases. So we're not all losers, is my point.
So that was the video of what was happening outside, and it's actually a quick little video I'm going to show you as well of them breaking in the doors at the event as well. And here's something that the California Globe has on its website. So you can see the protesters coming toward the doors here, and the security has no place to go. So the security is now coming inside to get away from the mob. And so these are the peaceful protesters. You can see they're breaking in the glass of the doors and causing the security and the police. And of course, that's probably what caused that big call for the police to show up. So anyways.
Wow.
So that's sort of
so like in January 6th, didn't one of the cops shoot anybody coming through the doors? I mean, what the
heck? Apparently they didn't feel as threatened as Capitol Security.
Yes. They were so threatened on January 6th that they had to shoot in the head an unarmed woman. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways, the point is that this kind of activity, and by the way, the Bee did pull the story afterwards. They revised it, I guess, and apologized to Charlie Kirk because it was a completely baseless claim that the person made in the Bee's paper. But it does have an effect, and we have a short video too on that as well from inside the event. But it just goes to show you what it did to the crowd size, because this kept essentially this suppressed speech, right? They had set up for more people to come than actually came because people didn't want to go through that mess in order to get there. James, can you pull up that short little video real quick? See, there's about 2/3 of the seats there in the back were completely empty. So I'm not 2/3, about a third. So it was about 2/3 full. But the point is, that's about a third, of a crowd that didn't come probably because they were scared away. And this is the effect that these people have on speech on campus. Just wanted to throw this out there. You guys got any thoughts real quick on this? I know Tim's already shared a pretty good thought on it.
No, it just, I mean, this story have so many levels here. It'll probably take the whole show to discuss all of them, but just briefly. I mean, on college campuses throughout the United States, we have speech being suppressed, especially from people who are on the right. Charlie Kirk being the latest victim of this. We have the students who want to hear him. Their rights rights of association are also being violated because there's this mob, Antifa mob, who thinks, and all their supporters who think that they have the right to do this. Somehow they're going to defend us. And look at the Sacramento Bee, who is supposed to be a journalistic outlet, who's supposed to be objective. They're publishing things that are so blatantly false, it's unbelievable. And notice where they went. Lynching. Okay? Lynching. Charlie Kirk was calling for lynching. The man never used the word. He never said anything like that. He used the word 50s and 60s. What was happening in the 50s and 60s is what his words were. Apparently in the world of the Sacramento Bee, the only thing that was happening in the 50s and 60s was the lynching of black people. That was the only thing that was happening in their mind. So they had to gin it up. Racism again. Oh God, we have to talk about racism. We have to defend black people. Well, in this case, they were trying to use the defense of black people to defend trans people. God help us with the distortions and the smears that are ongoing. And this is coming from an established newspaper. What is happening in our country where speech is being suppressed, where journalistic outlets are smearing people just to promote some political agenda? We have a real problem here. And I mean, we cannot cover it all right here, but it's something that we should really look a little more deeply into because we have a very, very serious problem ongoing in our society.
Yeah.
Well, in California, where this happened, there is a new law that if a physician goes against the grain of the normal government approved protocols for his patients, because he doesn't think that they're the correct method of treating his patients, and so he's going to take his Hippocratic oath to heart and go against the government mandate or government approved methods because he doesn't like them. If he does that, he'll lose his license in California. So why is it that in the same state, a news agency that deliberately prints misinformation out there, libeling someone, why aren't they also equally at risk of losing whatever licenses they need to be a news organization? I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they have a big long laundry list of requirements, mandated by the state of California to control news outlets. I bet I probably couldn't open up a newspaper tomorrow. I'd have to jump through a few hoops. So why is it the Bee can get away with misinformation that truly is real misinformation, not just the opinion of a physician treating their patient? How come?
And you can bet You can bet that the Sacramento Bee didn't get a Twitter warning or a Facebook warning saying that this is unsubstantiated.
Exactly.
This is fake news.
Exactly.
Fake news. Yeah. We're going
And,
to suspend your account, Sacramento Bee, on Facebook, your Facebook account, because you printed that thing. And they probably had it, an article, something posted on Facebook, or somewhere to that effect. I don't know. I don't follow the Bee. I don't have time for following, rags like that, complete unadulterated rags. I'm not stupid. So where's the it's the H
where's
word
the ministry
again.
of truth?
I'm not going to say
where's
the
our
H
ministry
word.
of truth when we need it?
Yeah, where's our ministry of truth? Because there is a to not utilize the H word. There is a lack of consistency here.
Oh God.
Well,
Okay, that's putting it very charitable, Tim. I like that. You know, but there's even a larger problem here is the whole dispensation of justice issue that is going on. I mean, look at what's happening to January 6 people. Okay.
Well, Leon, can you hold that thought? Because this is a good transition into the Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and your thoughts here will carry right over to that, I think. So, so let me introduce that. So the idea of of essentially the ministry of truth, the government going in there and trying to get these social media companies to censor misinformation, right, and to keep voices down that they think are harmful. Okay, well, here we completely had the Sacramento Bee doing that, and of course, nobody was out there. They had to threaten to sue them in order to get them down, to pull the story and change it, and that was after the damage was done. But what we have happening in Congress right now is there's a hearings that had just happened recently where they're talking about the Twitter files. And the Twitter files is essentially the story of how the government has been using social media companies to suppress speech. And so maybe, James, you could bring the visual up on this. So essentially, the Democrats they're interviewing Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger about how they about their reporting on this, because those are two of the key people who have been out there essentially showing the revelations of what's been in the Twitter files. So to give you a quick take, Elon Musk bought Twitter, and had he not bought Twitter, we wouldn't be going through these files right now. But because he bought Twitter, he opened up what was happening at Twitter to a handful of journalists that he thought were quality journalists. So this included Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss. She's a former New York Times reporter, by the way, too, who quit there because of the wokeism that was just getting too crazy for her. Yes. And a whole bunch of other people that they thought were good people that Elon Musk just said, hey, you choose the rest of the people, whoever you think could come in here and help, in this dissemination. So now they're interviewing these people in front of Congress, and the Democrats seem to want to suppress speech. They don't like the idea that somebody is investigating the government's role in suppressing speech, and they're trying to get their sources and everything. And it's funny, Musk was even quoted in saying here that this is crazy. These guys keep asking the Democrats, who's your sources? I mean, this sounds like, I think Matt Taibbi even said in the hearings, it sounds like, East German tactics, tell us your sources, they want to get at all this stuff. But it's absolutely ludicrous. And here's a picture of Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger as far as the hearings went. But the comments, there's just so many that were so outlandish, and of course Matt Taibbi is a well-respected, honored journalist, and they even called him a so-called journalist at the hearings. One of the Democrats did. But here's a clip that I thought was just absolutely takes the cake. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, during this hearing, she is a Democrat representative from Florida who had been involved in a scandal of her own, where she had essentially was trying to rig the game for Hillary against Bernie in the Democrat primaries, and so she lost her job in the DNC, leading that over this. But she decided to attack Matt Taibbi rather on ethics of all things, and she actually decided to go after him about the fact that he made money, on this, that it's helping his career. So we have a video clip of that, and James, could you roll that?
Figure on it, but it's quite obvious that you've profited from the Twitter files. You hit the jackpot on that Vegas slot machine to which you referred. That's true, isn't it?
I've also reinvested.
You've made some. No. Is it true that you have profited since you were the recipient of the Twitter files? You've made money. Yes or no?
I think it's probably a wash, honestly.
No, you have made money that you did not have before, correct?
So apparently, if you're a good journalist and you increase your readership and you make some money, apparently now that doesn't fly either. There's just some of the lunacy to come out of these hearings. But anyways, throw it back to you guys, and maybe Leon, if you wanted to.
It's a crime. It's a crime in America. It's a crime in America to make money, but it's only a crime if you're doing something that the right likes. Okay, because Matt Taibbi and them guys are known leftists, but they are just honest journalists. Okay, so it's a crime in America if you're making money from some activity that Debbie and her like type people. If they object to it, then it's a crime. But other than that, it's not a crime. Black Lives Matter got $90 million when they were burning down our cities. To this day, they haven't yet accounted for it. Is Debbie saying anything about that? I didn't hear nothing from Debbie about that one. But there she is right now questioning Matt Taibbi because his readership and his followers have doubled, and I'm sure he have made some money from it. Of course, that's great. I'm great for the man. He should do more of this. But of course, not in Debbie's world, not in Debbie's world. Only Black Lives Matter could make money from burning down our cities.
I wonder how much money Debbie makes from breathing air in the Congress halls. It's about all she's doing.
Yes.
Taking up air, and she's getting paid for it. Yeah, if anybody should have their pay cut, it'd be her for bringing out her BS, if I can utilize that nomenclature, instead of criticizing somebody that's just doing his job. So yeah, if he makes money, okay.
Well,
who cares?
In fairness to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I mean, if you look at the left's media sources nowadays, CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times, apparently you don't make money if you're writing, Democrat propaganda for the left in the guise of journalism. Yeah. So she thinks that's the way it's supposed to work, that you don't make money. And so I guess we can forgive her.
They're all charitable organizations. Don't worry. They're all the New York Times and all of them guys, MSNBC. They're all charitable organizations.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Leon, before we go, you had a thought you were in the middle of when we jumped to this last thing when we transitioned. Did you want to finish that thought, or was that
No, yeah. Well, yeah. I was gonna say there's an even bigger problem with all of this. We're talking about it and we're laughing about some of the things that's going on here. But there's an issue here about the dispensation of justice that we should be very, very careful about. Antifa have been running around all up and down, especially up and down the West Coast, destroying property, assaulting people, and all kinds of stuff. This has been going on here for years now, but nothing have ever basically been done to these people. I mean, how many people you have here have been arrested? I mean, there have been some, but there's been very few. Compare that now to what happened with the January 6 people, where an unarmed person was actually shot by the Capitol Hill police. And now some of these people are sitting in prison and they have not yet been tried. Imagine that is happening here in America. So there is this difference, this separation in terms of the dispensation of justice, depending on if the government sees you as a favorite, as some sort of favorite of the left, versus if you are somebody who's associated with the right. Because January 6th is, of course, associated with Donald Trump and all the leftist stuff, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and all these people, they're on the favorites of the left. And the FBI and law enforcement seem to be their dispensation of justice is being targeted at the right rather than looking at everybody when we're supposed to have equal justice for all in this society. But that is not what's happening, and this is a real problem.
Yeah. Well, and Tim, I thought that was a wonderful insight you had earlier about the idea that they're breaking in the doors there, and those cops didn't have their guns out, like they did at the Capitol, right? So those people were literally breaking down the doors and causing the security to back off and run inside. No, yeah,
and what play? That was a school, right?
Mm-hmm. That was
UC Davis. A public school, okay?
Yeah.
Public school.
Well, they're dancing on thin ice because in addition to the whole right-left hypocrisy, there's also the hypocrisy that if you are attacking the hallowed halls of Congress, which is basically the government, which it is, versus the Antifa people burning down the privately owned businesses.
Or suppressing speakers on a campus, right?
Yeah.
Or suppressing speakers on a campus. So, but just in the actual targets of these things. So on January 6th, you had people entering the hallowed halls of Congress and using sitting on desks and propping their feet up for Facebook photo ops versus people burning down businesses owned by people and their life's work in many cases, and their investments. These people that are hardworking, don't have a lot of money, they're losing it all. That's fine, according to the left. That's hunky dory. That's peaceful protesting mostly, and but the January 6th thing, no, that's a whole nother ball of wax because they have the audacity to enter into the machine.
Yeah,
and that's part of the big deal there too.
And the bigger story, I think, and it's related to these Twitter things, is how threatened the left is by suppressed footage being shown of the event, as they've called for Tucker to be taken down and get rid of Fox News and all this other stuff. So
suppression of speech again. Suppression of speech. Yeah, they are calling for it. Okay, the left in coordination with the government is calling for the suppression of, we want to make sure there's no misinformation or disinformation out there, and that is all we want. And yet we now have the Twitter files that shows the biggest propagandists we have had during the COVID lockdowns and even on other things is the federal government.
Yeah.
And that is what's going on right now. And these are the same people trying to suppress speech.
Unfortunately, our time is way over, so we got to suppress our own speech now. Thanks so much for joining us.
I think we're suppressing Leon's speech.
Leon can take one for the team.
All right, I'm taking it.
But thanks so much for joining us. We had a great guest earlier too, Valerie Durham. So go check that interview out about Freedom Fest 2023, and we've got Pacific Legal coming up next week. So be sure to stay tuned as they stand up for the government essentially trespassing on people's rights. So we're looking forward to that. So until then, stay tuned and stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.